Hey everybody, we're here for a new episode. The show that's yet to be named. We're going to be doing this on 80s sitcoms. So we didn't really set a criteria, but I'm going to now. And if you've broken this criteria, I'm okay with it because, like, I'm only strict on the rules on putty and caps.
There's no fair warning.
So I tried to keep it to at least, I wanted it to be 4, but I'm okay with at least the first 3 seasons of the show being from the 80s.
So 3 seasons. What if it's the last 3 seasons? If
That's
it's a
okay.
If it's a 5-season show,
it has to have at least 3 to 4 seasons in the 80s.
Okay.
I wanted 4, but then I realized there's a lot of shows that are in the style of the 80s, but they started in the late 70s or they went into the early 90s, and I'm completely okay with that.
Okay.
Also, I'm willing to accept that because I'll never do a 70s one because I don't really watch 70s sitcoms. Like, there's a few.
Neither did I. There's some good ones, but not as many.
And then in the 90s, there's so many. This might help take away from some of that. So I was like, okay, we could do this.
Perfect.
So that's the criteria. We'll do the list. 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 4, well, there's only 2 of us. And then we'll talk about it after if you don't want to hear us talk about it. So I'll let you start.
Okay. So for my number 5, I went with Taxi.
Okay, that's a good pick.
Because that's why I asked that was because that had 3 seasons in the 80s. It started in 78, but it ended in 83 or 84 or something like that. So,
like I said, I wanted to do 4, but 3 seemed a lot more options when you do it like that. So, okay, so for me, I have a tie at 5. And this is my only tie. I'm not going to go full caps and tie for every single one.
And then change your number 1.
Yeah, Elf and Golden Girls.
Okay, good choice.
And there's like sentimental things there, but Golden Girls is really good. People don't realize it.
Yeah, go watch it on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, it's worth it.
My number 4 is Cheers.
Okay, good pick. Solid pick. My number 4 is Alyssa Milano. I mean, Who's the Boss?
Oh, Angela.
Like, no one knows. Well, I don't remember the name, but the grandmother's really the boss.
Mona.
Yeah, she's really the boss.
Mona.
Okay.
My number 3, this is going not what he's done recently, but what he's done for the sitcom and Black America in general is the Cosby Show.
So we have a tie at 3 here because I also have the Wait, are you at 4?
This is my number 3. Cosby Show is my number 3.
Okay, well, Cosby Show, I agree. I don't give a shit about Bill Cosby.
Nope.
But this show is iconic, and I spent a lot of hours watching the Cosby Show, mostly because of random cameos from Adam Sandler.
Yes, that was towards the end, but yes.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that after too. So that was my 3. So you're on 2 now.
My number 2 is Perfect Strangers.
I wanted to put it. Anyways, my number 2 is Cheers.
Okay, so you ranked it a little higher than I did.
Yeah, I mean, it's on the list.
Yeah. Whereas my number 1 was lower on your list. It's Who's the Boss.
I figured that's what it was. So my number 1 is Married with Children.
See, that didn't make my list at all. Never liked that show.
It's that's a show where I can see what you're saying. That's why we did these lists as favorites and not what do we think is objectively the best.
Yeah, these are our favorites. Yeah.
Because I spent hours and hours watching Married with Children. But Who's the Boss? Great show. Okay, so we're going to open the floor. If you came for the list, we'll reread our list out for you, and then, whatever.
Okay, so
go.
For me, number 5 was Taxi, 4 was Cheers, 3 was The Cosby Show, 2 was Perfect Strangers, and my number 1 was Who's the Boss.
All right, so for me, I got my number 5 is Alpha and Golden Girls tie. My number 4 is Who's the Boss. My number 3 is The Cosby Show. My number 2 is Cheers, and my number 1 is Married with Children.
Okay, so solid list.
Floor is open.
Floor is open. Okay, so, where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with the Cosby Show, or do you want to start with?
Well, yeah, let's stick to our list before we talk about honorable mentions.
For sure.
So you had 5. You had Taxi, which Taxi is a really good show. Introduced Danny DeVito
and Tony Danza.
Hold on, sorry. Yeah, and Tony Danza.
Are you pulling a putty there?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. It's getting a little cold.
Christopher Lloyd was in that show.
Yeah.
Andy Kaufman. You can't say anything about Andy Kaufman's comedic genius in that show. It was just a great ensemble cast. I forgot the main guy. I forgot the actor's name. but he was the main character. He was in a show later called Dear John.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, it's gonna bug me, but like it had such a great on. I think Mary Lou Henner was in that show as well.
It's a show for me that I really like it. But I've never ever watched even a complete season, let alone the entire run of the show. Which is
so you wouldn't go out of your way to watch it.
I would, but in like the current climate of my life of reviewing movies and TV shows and having to stay up to date with things, I can't go back and dedicate like a full month of my life to trying to catch up on Taxi, right?
Taxi, yeah.
But
I agree.
I do admit it is a great show and it's worth watching 100%.
Yeah,
it's not on my favorites because I never sat down and watched it. You know what I mean?
Whereas I kind of grew up with Taxi.
Yeah. So and that's fair. That was at that era. It was maybe the biggest thing.
Right? Yeah, like late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah, like Mary Tyler Moore and
yeah, it was also like for me it was one of those ones that would air in reruns later in the day kind of thing. So instead of like a prime time, I was watching it like lunch hour kind of thing.
Well, that's how I consumed almost all of these shows, minus Married with Children. Maybe Cheers, but like my consumption of Who's the Boss and the Cosby Show was strictly from afternoon back-to-back playings on like weekends or on the weekdays, like at 4:00. You know what I mean?
If it was a cartoon rerun, I'd watch the show kind of thing at 5:00 at night.
Yeah, and it's which one are we just talking about?
Taxi.
Yeah. Taxi's worth watching. Yeah. I think another one you have on your list that's totally worth watching, and it was probably you know what actually is on my list. It is the number one honorable mention is Perfect Strangers.
It's Perfect Strangers.
I think that it's so funny. Like, what's his name? Bronson Pinchot plays that character so well. Like, he's just that goofy guy, and he does it.
Like the same way he plays the character of Serge in Beverly Hills Cop. Same. Yeah, he has that, but his comedic timing is fantastic in that show. Like it's very almost slapstick in a way, his comedy, but it has like it's a little deeper than that though.
Isn't he from a fictional place?
Yes, Mipos.
Yeah,
Mipos.
He always does this character, and it's like a cross between like southern like USSR type of country and Greece, and it's like the combo of those two places.
Goes on Letty.
Yeah, he's so funny.
Yeah, and you got to also remember that show introduced us to Harriet Winslow, who ended up starting her own spinoff in Family Matters.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a show, and that's the show that's hard to find right now.
Yeah,
there's very few DVDs out there, and
it's one I would like to buy. It's one that I would, and
it's really expensive.
If I bought Taxi, I would watch it.
Yeah, I own Taxi. That's one of the ones that
if I end up buying it, like those are the type of shows like, and it's not. I don't mean this in like a bad way because I would do it with like Cosby Show or Married with Children. If all of a sudden they have a deal on Amazon where you get the complete season in one of those big plastic box things where it's just a bunch of, and it's DVDs. It's like $30 guaranteed. I don't need for when it comes to TV, classic TV and classic cartoons. I don't need Blu-ray. I kind of like the experience of watching it in the shitty
little
format.
Bit of fuzzy. Yeah,
it reminds me of watching it back then, and
it brings that nostalgia. That. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I own the DVDs, the original DVDs of the Cosby Show, and I still like watching it in the 4:3 aspect ratio and everything. Yeah, I hate it when they take the 4:3 and they stretch it.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to me. But I also one thing I don't like is when you buy a Blu-ray and they don't widescreen it. Like, I mean, I guess there's times when you can't, but like, if I'm paying all this money to get the good quality of Blu-ray, I don't want to see it in a 4:3. You know what I mean?
I understand, but if like something, for example, like the Cosby Show, which wasn't shot in 16:9, it was shot in 4:3. You can't really do that.
You can't. I understand that, but on Blu-ray, it would still look better than if you did it on DVD. DVD, do not stretch my things. Leave it in a 4:3. I'll take that.
Well, then you'll end up what you had in a situation like what they did with the first season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where they didn't stretch it out, but they zoomed it in, so you're missing half the show. Yeah, it was bad.
They touched up that show and put a color, a completely opposite color filter on it. So it doesn't look dark and gritty. It looks like a happy, like high school.
Yeah. That first season, there was so much blue and darkness to it that it just lost the effect on the DVD.
And apparently, like, I don't like him anyway, so screw him. But Joss Whedon
was
very upset when he saw how Fox re-released it, or I think it was Fox.
I think it was.
That did the re-release.
But off topic.
But they've screwed up a few. The company that's done that has screwed up a few transitions from DVD to Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back to back this one.
Yeah,
because I want to talk about girls that I was in love with. So, who's the boss?
Alyssa Milano. Oh, still holds a place in my heart, man.
Like, and at the point of me watching this, I'm like 7 or 8, and she was probably like 19 already. But like,
she was my first crush.
Yeah, she was so hot, and she's definitely up there in like my first crushes. And that show's really funny. Tony Danza is really underrated as like a goofy like New York, Philadelphia guy.
Yeah. Like he moves to Connecticut like to the upper class neighborhood.
He's sitcom Sylvester Stallone.
That's literally 100%. I can see that. I can totally see that. It played it. I like the whole role reversal where he had to become the housekeeper while the woman is the one going out and earning
that
a
era of
living.
shows you never saw that.
No. And Katherine Hellman, she was another one, like the one who played Mona. I mean, I think they got the character of Blanche Dubois from the Golden Girls from Mona.
Yeah, I do think that as well.
Yeah, because Mona was like this middle-aged, little bit older woman, but she's going out. She's like frisky and like
all like sassy horny as hell.
Yeah.
So that's a really good show. That's a show that I unintentionally watched like all of it because my parents would have Who's the Boss on because at that time it was still a really popular show. Even when it got to syndication, it was still like the Cosby Show. It stayed popular for a really long time, just like Cheers, just like what's the Will Smith one?
Fresh Prince.
Fresh Prince. Like,
and you know what I noticed about all those shows? Iconic theme songs.
Yeah.
All iconic theme songs.
Well, Perfect Strangers was pretty memorable. I mean, there's.
Like, tell me you don't see Tony Danza sliding at the home plate when you hear "There were times I lost a dream."
I mean, the Cosby Show is so memorable too because it's so like shit. The intro song.
Yeah, the one where they're all in tuxedos and they're like all dancing.
But I mean, his dance moves, like, you just knew he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what? You know, you didn't. It's so crazy that this guy that was like he was like the Tom Hanks of the 90s.
America's dad.
Yeah, and he was just like, you never guessed this.
Behind the scenes, you didn't know he was such a jerk.
Well, it's only because there was no social media at the time, right? Yeah. I'm sure you would have known. Okay, so continuing on here with celebrity crushes.
Right.
I'm immediately talking about Married with Children.
Okay.
Because I think that I don't know if I've ever been in love with anyone that wasn't like obtainable as Christina Applegate, except for maybe Jennifer Love Hewitt. But that's a story for a different day.
That's a different day.
But yeah, like,
I don't know. Go on with yours, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it.
It's just such a stupid show that it's you never feel bogged down by it. Like my issues with some of these other shows, even the ones on my list, is they dealt with like serious subject matter. Like Cosby Show, you were guaranteed every third episode was going to be a downer episode, or someone was talking about drugs or rape or like something like that. Which I'm not saying that's realistic. I get it.
But
I
the 80s sitcoms were famous for that, though. Yeah, every show had like the special episode.
They were all after school specials, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
But there was never that in the Married with Children. Married with Children was about a father who hates his family and an annoying wife who takes all his money, the daughter who sleeps around, and the son who's just literally a little scumbag. And that was the entire show.
And see, and that's probably why I never took to it. For one, I prefer brunettes over blondes. So for me, Christina Applegate was never part of that. But to me, it just didn't connect. It didn't click. I just found it more annoying than anything. The best thing about Married with Children is that little parody they did in Futurama.
Oh, what a deep pull.
You remember that one, Alcazar?
Yeah. Oh my god,
and
that's good.
Only because what's her name was the I forgot her name now. The one who plays Peg.
Oh my gosh. Why did you make me just blank like that, guy?
I don't know.
Say whatever, but I know you're talking.
But her, the one who plays Peg, she's the one who plays Leela in Futurama.
Yeah.
And they brought in Al Bundy, whoever he is. I forgot his name. Ed something, I think it was. But they brought him in for the episode as a character called Alcazar. And there's one scene in that show where she's like dressed up as Peg. And she's like, ow.
Listen, Futurama's a whole nother story for another day.
That's an episode for all unto itself.
You know what? We'll keep all of these live actions for this series, and then we'll do animated afterwards.
Yeah.
But so I mean, maybe my thing for it was because, like, for me, when I started watching this, it was probably like in its end. Like, I think it went for like 10 seasons.
Yeah, it went a really long time.
So it was probably like 98-ish when I started watching this. And for me at that age, it was like, I can't believe this kind of like hardcore like style of comedy is being shown, because that didn't exist. Like I said, when we were talking about the cartoons, like Simpsons saying bitchin' was like, whoa. And this show was like all about sex and like Seinfeld. But Seinfeld and like Friends and stuff were, you knew that was for an older audience, where for some reason they let Married with Children play at really weird time slots where kids could watch it.
It was kind of that in-between borderline that kind of led from one to the other.
Yeah. And I guess because it was older, right? So they were just trying to fill in time. So it's like Roseanne. Roseanne is a show that I watched a lot, which was, we'll talk about in 90s, but it was like a filler show that got you from Fresh Prince to Home Improvement. So if you wanted to get there, you were going to watch Roseanne too.
But see, that's another show that I never really took to, was Home Improvement.
Yeah, see, but a different story for a different day. Okay?
Different story for a different day. But I agree with Roseanne. Roseanne was that bridge show that took you from one into the other. And it was a show that kids, it wasn't really for kids like the other two shows would be. No.
And it was really strange. It was a surprisingly dark show, like, even though it was like a comedy, and not a bad show, but
it's not a bad show. And
so that's my thing with Married with Children, right? And then
agreed.
You had the spin-off.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I can't remember the name.
I can't remember either. That's how good it was.
It had the girl, Nikki Cox was the girl, and she was really
well. That wasn't really a spin-off. That was more of a. I guess they're trying to rehash.
Yeah, well, she appears. She appears in Married with Children.
Nikki was the name of the show. I think it was called, right?
No.
That's what was Greg the Bunny. Greg the Bunny or Unhappily Ever After. Okay.
So I was something like that. Unhappily Ever After. Greg the Bunny is
another show.
Seth Green.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So we got through those. We could chat a little Cosby, I guess.
Yeah. Cosby, like I said, it was such a great, I would say that's a great show to watch as a family, because it really touched every subject. I learned a lot about Black America culture from the Cosby Show. I listened to jazz because of the Cosby Show. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I appreciate some of the things, and it's like, here you have like this Black American family that are wealthy, and they're not accepted for who they are because of the fact that they're Black sometimes. And it's like, it shows that, we can have this wealthy Black American family and that don't live in the slums, that, you know what I mean? It puts them in a better light.
It was a type of, and this is like, I get the point you're making. You're not saying that as a generalization. You're saying that that's how shows were made then.
Yeah.
And to see this is like
refreshing.
It's so completely different too, because they would never present this to you this way. And they let it be made with the cast that he wanted and the writers that he wanted. And like, and that it's a good show. It deals with a lot of, it shows that everybody's the same to me. It shows the struggles of dealing with being Black in New York at that time, but it also shows that everybody was the same. And I think that's what was important about it.
Yeah. And I think that's the main message of that show was like, we're all human beings and let's all treat each other like human beings.
It's probably the number one show, I would say, actually, surprisingly, between this and Fresh Prince, for telling you a message in an episode and getting you to understand it. I think they handled it the best. Like, Family Matters did a little bit, and maybe Full House, but like, these were the two that, like, to me,
especially when it came to race, I think they handled it in such a wonderful way.
Yeah,
like they told a great story with
and like everything that they did, all the problems that the kids had at school. Like this is a good show to watch if you for like younger kids, like if they're like 10 to 12. Like this is a good like sitcom to watch with your family.
Yeah,
I guess,
because
right?
it's never graphic, it's never overly sexualized, it's never,
No,
you know what I mean?
It
it's a
always makes,
very safe show.
yeah. It's a little bit too safe to the point where it's scary. It kind of feels like religious-y, but it's not. It's not, but it kind of gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, good on them. A lot of people came out of that show.
Yeah.
So,
Malcolm Jamal Warner, Lisa Bonet, like Felicia Rashad, like these are all names that everybody's familiar with. Like,
yep. And
the guy that's in jail there.
Yeah, whatever, you know. So, what else do I have? Cheers. Let's talk some Cheers.
Yeah, let's talk some Cheers. I wanted to be Sam Malone.
I feel like everyone wanted to be Sam Malone, and everyone wanted Woody to be their friend.
Yep, agreed.
Because he was like Woody was so funny, but you wouldn't want to be him. He's the guy that you just want to be with, and Sam Malone was like the guy you want to be.
Yeah,
and it's funny because after the year 2000, Cheers doesn't get recognition that it deserves. It's easily one of the best sitcoms ever made. It's just second on my list because I would rather watch Married with Children. Like,
okay,
like
understandable.
Cheers at the time of me watching it, which is like, you have to understand, I'm very young at this point. Which my consumption of sitcoms is very strange, as well as my movies. But so it was like about people in a bar dealing with like adult life problems. Work situation. It was like a real bar where you go in to talk about your work day. And I didn't understand any of it, but I just connected to these characters. I kept coming back because I just wanted to see them and the funny little jokes that they do, and it spun off into like what's one of my favorite shows of all time, which is Frasier.
Frasier, agreed. Yeah, fantastic show.
And it's a really well made show.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Another one, I guess we'll talk about Alf, because you had Alf on your list and I didn't. And same thing with the Golden Girls. Alf was one of those shows that I think it wasn't on long enough, or when they did air it, they didn't air enough episodes at a time that it never really got the recognition it deserved. Yeah. And I think that's why it didn't make my list. It's on my honorable mentions, but Alf was another smart show that dealt with some things that, like, it was
Alf had a lot of those after school special things.
Because they dealt in the alien sense, because Alf was obviously an alien, instead of like with the kids. Yeah,
and they used him as like a crutch to explain the problems, and he did eat cats. So
Lucky. I kill me.
Yeah, and it was really funny, and I think without Alf, we don't get Third Rock from the Sun, because it's very similar in the style of fish out of water, aliens, and it's so different. And like Third Rock kind of got brushed aside. It was very popular, but it kind of just got brushed aside towards the end. Where Elf,
I think that lasted. I think Third Rock went a little long.
It did, but Third Rock is good. We'll get into that in another episode. I think Elf kind of lost itself in the last season that it did, and then it just got canceled.
Yeah, it was like a really weird ending where he gets kidnapped by the FBI, and it was they did a movie afterwards though. They did a movie.
Yeah.
Where they explained what happened afterwards, but it was just the only people that were in the movie were Alf and Willie.
And you know what? That was a pretty... it's a show that nowadays I don't even think people know about.
It's on Amazon Prime. Go watch it.
Yeah, it's a short watch.
Yeah, it's only 4 seasons or something like that, right? 4 or 5.
Golden Girls... we should talk about Golden Girls.
We got to talk about Golden Girls.
Because Betty White is maybe one of the, if not the most important female ever in TV history.
I would agree to that.
She's the first female, I believe, on a talk show, the first female-led sitcom, the first female to win, I believe it was a daytime Emmy.
Yep. She has so many awards and accolades, and this woman is turning 100 next year.
Yeah, and she completely changed the face of the game, and we're talking 1930s, okay?
Yeah.
She's the first woman to host a talk show.
Yeah.
the first woman to have her own variety show, and she did all of this, and
if
then came,
yeah, I agree.
If everybody with Golden Girls.
Yeah, I agreed. If it weren't for Betty White, you wouldn't have Carol Burnett, you wouldn't have Vicki Lawrence, you wouldn't have any of these.
She was in oh my god, was it Mary Tyler Moore?
Yes, I believe it was, or Rhoda.
Well, I think she was in both, because Rhoda's a spin-off of Mary Tyler Moore, and she's great in that. And then that was a whole generation of like female-led sitcoms that came after
Empowerment.
Murphy Brown and like all of these shows. Then she came with Golden Girls, which was like a banger. And then later on, as an older woman, you got Hot in Cleveland, which was like a pretty funny show that nobody ever watched.
Yeah, it was kind of overlooked, that one. But yeah, no, Betty White, and then all the movies she's been in. Now she's just, I think she's earned the right to become a parody of herself.
But she knows that.
Yeah, and she makes, and she plays it perfectly.
She's going to be 100, and she's fully functioning as a human being. Like she's capable still, which is crazy. She can still act, and like like I watched a documentary on her. It's on Netflix. It's really good. It's short. Like how important that she is to females in
I agree,
in movies and TV.
And to think when they started Golden Girls, they were basing it around B. Arthur, who was supposedly the star at that time.
Yeah, and it's the combination of B. Arthur being the dry comedy.
Betty White was
the goofy one. The mom Sophia was like the bitch. Like she treated everybody so like
almost like a straight man.
But like she wasn't really straight, man. She was more like, you're all idiots. Like, get out of here. B. Arthur was more like, oh, and then what's the other one? Why can't I remember her name?
Rue McClellan.
Yeah, she was like the slutty, like
the horny older,
yeah, and she just like, you know, and it wasn't, they didn't do it in a way where she came off like that. They made her seem like the guys that she was with were all like the slutty,
lusting after her. Yeah,
after her, right? And that show's so well put together.
Yeah, and it lasted a long time too.
I don't know how many seasons, but I know it was on for a long time, and I watched it a lot because my grandmother used to like it. So my mom would watch it because my grandmother liked it, even though my grandmother wasn't with at the house.
Yeah.
But my mom would just watch it because I guess it was
something to talk about.
Yeah, and then so I would just watch it. And then it became a show that later when we got those throwback channels like TV Land and stuff.
Yeah. And they would air that all the time.
It would be like a whole day marathon of just Golden Girls.
And then wasn't there a spin-off after that? Golden Towers or something like Golden Rest?
I think there was, but I never saw it.
Yeah, it was only a couple of them. I don't think Betty White was there or something like that. It was
I don't remember, but I know
I think it was just like B. Arthur and yeah.
I think
it wasn't Golden Girls a spin-off of another show too?
Yes, I believe so.
Was it Empty Nest or something like that?
Was it Working Girls?
Maybe. I can't remember now, but we're talking like 30, 40 years ago now.
Anyways,
almost.
okay.
But on its own though, Golden Girls still stands the test of time.
So we have 2 shows or 3 shows the same? Who's the Boss?
Yeah.
Cosby Show, Cheers.
And Cheers. We touched on Taxi and
we touched
Strangers.
everything. Okay,
I would like to touch on a show none of us had on our list, which was, I don't know if it's in your honorable mentions, but Growing Pains.
Okay, so I don't have that here, but you can talk about that.
Well, Growing Pains, how come that just wasn't a show for you? I didn't put it on my list because I found that a little bit too sugary sweet for me.
I don't have any of those shows. I don't have Family Ties, or what's the other one? There was Family Ties, Growing Pains, and there was one other one that was like the exact same shows.
Oh, okay. I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name of it.
Wait,
but yeah.
Is Alan Thicke Growing Pains?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Family Ties is the other one.
Yeah, so it's Growing Pains and Family Ties. There was no third one. I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's just those 2.
But I never liked those. Like, I loved Michael J. Fox, and I just couldn't. It's too.
Yeah, I was not into Family Ties either.
It's too telling you morals, but not in the good way that like Cosby Show gave it to you. It felt like all sugar coated and like.
I found it a little political.
Yeah,
the family was very Democrat. Michael J. Fox was a Republican, and they were always like bashing heads.
Yeah, and it was very white privilege too. Like it didn't even like attempt to hide that.
Yeah, so I never really got into that one. Yeah, but Growing Pains was okay, but just not. It wasn't for me. I didn't really like
decent theme songs, right?
It was a great theme song, yeah, but I found that one a little like it was a very vanilla Roseanne.
Yes. Okay, that's really good.
It was a very vanilla Roseanne, middle America, even another one a little bit more privileged than others kind of thing.
And Family Ties was kind of like a really vanilla Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
Not in like the overall story, but the terms were like Will was so different than everyone else in the house, where Michael J. Fox was so different than everyone else in the house.
I agree with that too. Yeah. And then you threw in Urkel, which was Nick from Ayo Mallory. But yeah, that's one. Another one we didn't touch on was Night Court.
Okay, so I don't have Night Court either, so this is good. A Night Court, I've seen it, but I never got into it.
See, I like Night Court. I always liked Harry Anderson's style of comedy. It was like very quick-witted, sharp-witted. I myself too, I tend to be a little quick. Like if you say something to me, I respond right away, like just like the way Harry Anderson would. And then you had like a great ensemble of different characters. You had his Baylor Mack. You had John Larroquette as the prosecutor, and Marky Post, I think it was her name. She was the she was the defense attorney. Yeah. You had Bull, the bailiff, right? Like it was a great
weird. It was so weird that almost in every episode the same exact people worked every court case. Did you ever think of that?
Nobody got a day off.
Like no, and it was like it was never me against somebody else. It was always like the same two people almost.
Yeah. It was always John Larroquette against Marky Post there. And I think that's why it's not on my list either. It's because it felt like every day it's more of the same kind of thing.
Okay, well, I got a couple here.
Sure.
So, Full House.
Mm-hmm.
I'm putting this in the 80s because I think the first 4 seasons are the best of the show, and it ran from 87 to 90 for those seasons.
Yeah.
So everything after that is kind of like, it's still a good show. I mean, it's not really a good show, but it's a show that holds nostalgia, and it has iconic characters, Uncle Jesse and Bob Saget and Danny Tanner. And you had the Olsen twins came out of it. You had DJ, whatever her name is, but she's like on a lot of shows now.
She does a lot of those Hallmark Channel movies.
Dave Cloutier.
Dave
Coulier. I said the goalie's name, Dan Cloutier.
Dan Cloutier.
But yeah, and he was a hockey fan, and like
Detroit Red Wings.
And then Uncle Jesse, obviously,
icon, and then
John
Stamos.
And Becky,
Lori Loughlin,
Oh, she got sent to jail, you stupid idiot.
Another one.
But it's like that. The cast of that is like amazing.
It's a great cast.
It's potentially one of the best.
I found they jumped the shark. Is like you said, after season 4, Michelle got a little too old, and they needed to bring cute twins back so that Uncle Jesse and Becky had. And after that, it kind of wasn't the same anymore.
And it kind of it still had this type of message in it.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell it's directed more at kids than it was at families as a show, but it was very vanilla. Like it was, the difference is it was West Coast vanilla, which was at the time we didn't really see that yet. We were used to Midwestern or like East Coast families. And we never saw like the full West Coast, like California style living, which was like so different to us. But it was too much. It tried too hard to push a message all the time, and it was like so vanilla coated when you go back to it, but it's like nostalgic.
If it's on, I'll watch it. Like, don't get me wrong, but I found it just didn't deal with the actual family issues properly. Like, for example, there's that episode where Stephanie drives the car into the kitchen, and like, being raised in an Italian household, that would have been a wooden spoon or a belt across the head.
Oh, that would have been like a death.
Right? Where Danny Tanner's like, that's okay, as long as nobody got hurt. No. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But yeah, so I found that aspect a little bit too unbelievable. Like, it didn't really...
I mean, the thing that I liked that it did well was a single man raising a family, all women. And you never saw that. If anything, you would have been a single mother raising boys. So it was like a weird spin on it. And it was good. It introduced so many people. Like I said, John Stamos is like, came out of that big time.
Yeah, it was a good dynamic. It was a good dynamic in that.
And
like,
Bob Saget is such a dirty fucker. Like,
his
comedy's so good. And I don't understand how he played that role.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't originally cast, right? It was somebody else.
Oh, that's right. But still, you ended up with him.
Yeah. See that, and that's what I think. I think when they were trying to play on the nostalgia factor, when they came out with Fuller House, they just rehashed the same.
It's completely rehashed, and
it's the same concept.
I'll give them this. It's very watchable, but it's not good. Like Full House was already not very good, and now you've gone off. Yeah. But like Full House, it's a theme song, okay?
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, but
everywhere you go.
So I got a couple other ones here. Kate and Allie, sorry. Kate
and Allie, yeah, that's a good one.
Kate and Allie is a super underrated show.
Yeah. Like Jane Curtin.
Yeah, and I think they did a really good comes with Jane Curtin's in Third Rock Son.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a super underrated show. Like I don't remember it to the point where I'm gonna sit here and like preach about it to you, but I remember watching it and being like, wow, I really like this show. Why does nobody talk about this show?
Yeah, Kate and Allie was a little different, I think, because it dealt more with I guess it being a young boy at the time, you didn't want to watch shows about women.
I guess, yeah.
Like, I mean, that was at least my mentality at the time when I was like 7, 8 or whatever it was when the show came out. So it's like this didn't hold interest to me.
Well, and then we had, I don't know if it's Canadian, but we had like what was that show called? Oh my God, with the two girls.
I don't remember. Might have been.
It was like Busy and something, and they were.
Oh yes, Ready or Not.
Ready or Not, and that was like it played like at the same time as Wonder Years. It would play like right after it.
Yeah, it was the same type of show,
but it was like a little bit darker. It was more like serious.
Yeah,
like I remember that. I don't know if I remember that.
Yeah,
it's okay. A Different World.
A Different World. That was 80's.
Yeah,
that might be.
It's. I believe it had 3 seasons in the 80s.
Okay.
Because I think it was only 5 seasons.
Yeah. What about Three's Company then? Three's Company was all 70s, wasn't it?
I think it only had 2 seasons in the 80s.
In the 80s.
But Three's Company is a really good show.
Yeah, John Ritter was fantastic.
I could technically do a 70s episode, but I don't feel like anyone wants
that's why I put Three's Company on my honorable mentions.
Yeah. So Bosom Buddies wouldn't.
Oh, Bosom Buddies. Yeah.
That wouldn't hold up now. I'm telling you right now, that would not be made. But it like Tom Hanks in like the early years, and it's pretty funny.
That was a funny show.
What did you just say?
Facts of Life.
Facts of Life.
Facts of Life was another.
George Clooney. Didn't Alan Thicke write the theme song?
Yeah. So what people may not know, Alan Thicke, Robin Thicke's dad, is a musician.
Yeah.
He passed away, R.I.P. to Alan Thicke. Yeah, another Canadian there. But he wrote the theme song for most of those 80s sitcoms.
Yeah.
He was a musician before he was an actor. And I think that's where Growing Pains stemmed from, is like, I'm writing the theme songs for all these sitcoms. Why don't I just start one myself?
Yeah, and he's iconic for that role.
Yeah.
Hold
Seaver.
On. I'm erasing things.
Something Seaver. I forgot his name. I remember Mike Seaver.
I'm already so bad with names, as you obviously know, and like the amount of things I try to remember on like a constant basis, it's hard.
Yeah.
But so I have Charles in Charge.
Yeah. Silver Spoons was another one.
Silver Spoons
with Ricky Schroeder and Alfonso Ribeiro.
Yeah.
That's where he got his start.
Yeah. Holy crap. I forgot about that show.
Yeah, Charles in Charge was good.
Charles in Charge introduced us to what's his face? Scott Baio.
Yeah.
And then he eventually became Bob Loblaw's Loblog in Arrested Development.
Yes, that's right.
So yeah, Bob Loblaw. Yeah, I mean Scott Baio. Yeah, he was huge in the 80s.
Yeah,
and I think they used him a lot in those reality shows in the early 2000s.
Yeah, Scott Baio's turning 50 or something like that.
Yeah, because he fell off a cliff. Like he was so massive in the 80s, and
he just went 90s. Like this and then like this. Like it was. He peaked and fell.
It wasn't even a turnaround. It was like I hit the top and I fell.
Yeah, like literally fell right off the top. It wasn't even a slow decline.
Like when those shows came out after, I didn't even know he was the guy from Charles in Charge. Like when those reality shows
if they
didn't tell you that, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Scott Baio. And then I was like, oh shit, Charles in Charge.
Yeah.
Which isn't Charles in Charge a spinoff of Joni Loves Chachi?
No, I don't think so.
Joni Loves Chachi is a spinoff of Happy Days.
Of Happy Days, yes. So was Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, and so was Charles in Charge, I think.
I don't think so. Not Charles in Charge, because Scott Baio played a different character.
Oh, that's yeah. But Scott Baio was in that.
Yes, he was. He was Chachi.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not Charles.
Yeah, so that's where I got it confused. All right, shut up. Nobody loves Chachi.
No, nobody loves Chachi. Not even Joni.
Designing Women. Designing Women was a good show.
Yeah.
That's
Delta Burke.
Yeah, that's a show too that was way ahead of its time, and nobody gave it the time that it deserved. Like if you go back and watch it now, it's still a good show. It holds up.
Yeah. Same thing with Newhart.
Oh, Newhart. I forgot to put Newhart on my list.
Newhart was one of those shows. It was a decent show. Like I said, wouldn't make my top 5, but if it's on, I watch it.
It should be on my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Just the guy who plays the repairman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I don't remember his name, but he's so funny.
Yeah. Like I just remember, hi, I'm Daryl. This is my brother Daryl. My other brother Daryl.
Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna find out what his name is right now.
But yeah, Newhart was a smart show. I think if it weren't for Newhart, we wouldn't have the shows like Frasier or Seinfeld and those style of dry comedy shows.
How can I? Oh, there you go. Yeah, because he had 2 shows.
Yeah,
he had the Bob Newhart show, and it was Tom Post and George Utley.
Yes.
And he was just like a dumb guy that was the repairman.
Yeah.
In
the complex or whatever, the hotel.
The hotel, yeah. But that's there were some good shows out there.
Yeah. Now, this was 80s, but I don't know if I would have considered sitcom. There was a British show called Fawlty Towers with John Cleese. Was that 80s or was that 70s?
I mean, it's like 70s-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some good shows. If you're gonna go British, I tried not to.
Yeah.
Like not keeping up appearances. Are You Being Served?
Are You Being Served? Yeah.
Are You Being Served?
Blackadder.
Blackadder. Like I watched.
Those aren't sitcoms though. Those are just comedies, I would think, right?
I mean, okay, so this is something I learned. Any show that is 30 minutes that has comedy is technically a sitcom because it's just a situational comedy. So they're working in a store, that's the situation, and it's a comedy. Because I always thought that like there was like criteria. It had to be like a live studio audience,
yeah.
And this, but like South Park is considered a sitcom. So
I mean, animated, but
that's why. So that's why I tried to. If you see the list, I tried to stick to live studio audience.
Yeah. Same with mine, yeah.
Which I think that's our criteria.
Yeah.
So we're 90s will obviously be next, and we'll do shows that we have to have at least 3 seasons in the 90s.
In the 90s, yeah.
But 90s is not going to be very hard. I can name 20.
See, whereas for me, I kind of fell off the sitcoms in the 90s, so I got to do a little bit more research on that.
I think it'll be pretty easy to. I mean, maybe to make your top 5. But to make like a list of shows. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of shows in the 90s I didn't watch, and you're going to be very surprised on that. So stay tuned.
It's the 2000s. In the 2000s, I stopped watching TV like at all.
I didn't watch any of the 2000 sitcoms. I
was never home from the year 2002 until like 2011. And then I never left again.
In the year 2000, I turned 23, and I don't remember from age 23 to 30.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, for me, it was like from 14 until like 25 is like just a blur.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
Yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Let us know if you ever seen any of these shows. I don't even want to know which one's your favorite. If you want to tell me your favorite, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thanks for watching. Oh, you want to plug anything?
Johnny Donuts 777. All my socials are that. He'll put the stuff in the description.
I don't even have to say it. He tells you. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.